So, as some of you may know, my beloved Scott foil died a delaminating death last year, and in its place I bought an Allez Sprint. And since that I've built it up using the drivetrain and the wheels from the Scott foil, and I've had a chance to race it. I've crashed it again, I've ridden on some hills, I've ridden it on some rough roads, and I thought I'd do a bit of a review of it. Now, this isn't going to be your standard YouTube review. For one thing, I don't have a videographer or a producer, so you're getting whatever footage I just happen to have on hand. But I'm also not just going to read out the tech sheets. I'm going to talk about it, what it rides like, how it feels, and importantly, how it's different from the Scott foil. So of course, the Scott foil is an out-and-out aero bike. It is stiff, pretty heavy, and it goes quickly. So how did the Allez Sprint compare to that? Well, on the flats, I've got to say the Allez Sprint felt like it was absolutely on rails. That bike is so stiff laterally that it just feels like every press of the pedal goes straight through to the road. Now, having raced on the Scott foil for 4 years, I'm not really going to say that it's fundamentally different from that. They're both aero bikes. The Scott foil is stiff and agile. The Allez Sprint is stiff and agile. And I'm not going to say that the Allez is any significant improvement over the Scott. The handling's a bit different. The Allez Sprint has a much shorter wheelbase, so I'm often finding myself clipping my toes with my wheel if I'm trying to track stand at the traffic lights. And it definitely feels like it's a little bit twitchier going through the corners. Now, clipping my toes isn't going to be any real issue. I mean, this bike is designed to be ridden quickly, not slowly, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. I've also built this bike up with a Syncros integrated stem that a friend of mine got from a Green Edge mechanic back in 2017. This one's 2 centimeters narrower than the Scott foil's handlebars, and I'll tell you what, you really notice the difference. It feels really fast and tight and aerodynamic when you're on the straight. When you're getting out to sprint out of the saddle, it certainly feels different with that extra 2 centimeters missing. And it took me a good couple of weeks to get used to the feeling of not having that extra width when I'm sprinting. Now, I couldn't really stand the bright green of the Syncros, so I've blacked it out with some tape. But hopefully at some point in the future I'll be able to get some decals to cover that up. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I'm a pretty average B-grade crit rider. I do alright in a sprint, but I don't go uphill well at all, and so this bike was really ideal for me. I took it out the other day and I rode up Wollonga Hill and then rode along Brookman's Road up towards Kaipo. And this is where the aluminium frame and that rigidity through the frame really became apparent. Although the Allez Sprint's got the carbon forks from the Tarmac SL8, it was still incredibly rough on those rough roads up at Kaipo. Going up Wollonga Hill wasn't much of a problem. Certainly I could lose a lot more from my belly than I could from a bike, so I didn't really feel like the bike was holding me back from going up. I took 15 seconds off my PB. I'm carrying about 5 kilos more than when I set my PB too, so the bike goes all right up a hill, but yeah, when I got onto the really rough roads, I was feeling it every bump. And that was probably one of the longest rides that I've done as well, just over 2.5, nearly 3 hours. I'm not going to say that the Scott foil was any better over long rides, but this certainly isn't what you'd call an endurance or a comfort bike. So I've currently got it set up with some Wheelscience Elemental wheels. These are about 3 years old now. They're not the widest external width, but I couldn't be happier with them, and especially for the price that they were when I bought them. I've paired these up with some latex inner tubes and some Continental GP5000s. As with every latex tube, the wheels always tend to go flat if you leave them for more than a day or so, but they certainly feel like the fastest things I've ever ridden on. So that's really about it for this quick and dirty review. It's definitely a crit bike. It's definitely not an endurance bike. Going up hills, I don't think it holds you back. It certainly isn't the lightest bike around, but then again, I'm not the lightest fellow around either. And the stiffness means that all the power that you're putting through goes straight through to the road. Anyway, I hope this has been of some use to you. If you are thinking about getting an Allez and building it up as a crit pig, absolutely recommend it. That's it for now. Take care.